I'm gonna give it one more minute for folks to join. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Welcome everyone. Please feel free to use the chat, any of the features that are at your disposal. If you have questions and or want to contribute, please jump on in. I'll introduce myself here in just a second, letting a few more folks dial in here. Welcome, welcome. And we'll go ahead and get started. Just maybe 30 more seconds. Okay. All right. Well, let's get this going here. Here's a quick look at our agenda today. I'm also going to go kind of video off, get that off my screen. We'll do brief introductions. I'm also joined today by my co-founder, Michael Coop, so I'll make sure to get him to chime in, say hello. And the topic for today's webinar is around top sources for generating quality prospect lists. We're going to go through kind of a framework for thinking about how to generate your lists, and then dive into exactly where you can go and some best practices for putting those lists together, as well as avoiding some common mistakes. I am Patrick Baines. I'm the CEO at Nerdwise, and I'm covering today for our head of customer success, Max Herman, who took an early break for the holiday. And then Michael Coop is with me, my co-founder. Coop, you want to say hello?
Nice to meet you all. My name is Michael Coop, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm excited to dive into today's webinar and presentation.
Excellent. So just a quick background on Nerdwise. We help kind of replace what I would consider to be a really old school sales process. So, if you go back 50 years ago, salespeople were driving literally door to door to meet their prospects and leaving business cards, and phones came out, cell phones came out, things changed a little bit, email changed things a bit. And then in the last 10 years or so, there's been just this immersion, this explosion of tools and systems that have really enabled salespeople to operate much, much more efficiently. And so this has been happening for a long time, just as it happens in other roles and functions and industries. But Nerdwise is on the kind of bleeding edge of helping sales teams and companies move much more quickly with their sales motions, go to market much more faster and effectively. And so, versus this old process where you would be one by one researching prospects and one by one calling them and, kind of pursuing people, whether they were even interested or not. We help move things to a much more efficient and organized approach. So we start with go-to-market strategy. We automate a lot of the cold outreach for sales teams. As part of that, our technology enables lead scoring so that we can identify folks that are actually showing interest, and that enables what we call targeted follow-through. So sales folks really get to pick up here on much warmer, much more targeted prospect lists, and as a result have much higher conversion rates on their efforts. So again, today we're going to focus on building prospect lists. Just to give you guys a few terms to be familiar with that we may use throughout. And if I say something that you're not familiar with and you want a definition, please stop us on the fly. But first, is a prospect. This is just someone who you think is your target client and you're engaging them. So they become a prospect, or you want them on your list as a prospect. A lead is someone who is now showing interest. That's like, hey, I'm interested. I want to take a meeting. I'm, maybe I signed up for a meeting or that kind of thing. Database in this context is a source that you have or that you've paid for wherever that you can now quickly acquire your prospect data. So you can get lists, prospect lists at large very quickly. Human research, when we talk about this in this context, it's literally the act of human beings going out there, researching, validating prospect list data, meaning like you gave them a LinkedIn search result, you gave them a list of companies and you said, I want to get the emails, the phone numbers, the information, as much information as I can about these folks. And humans will go out there, they will find that information, they'll validate it, they'll get it back to you. And then scraping. Scraping also has a few different applications, but it's a common technology these days, and it lets you capture data off of websites as kind of a CSV file, where now you can use that data in other formats. And we're going to touch on a few of these terms as we go. Again, stop me if you've got questions. So couple agenda items here. So these are some of the things we're going to cover, and I'll talk about them in just lightly now. But the first piece is, before you think about getting a list, and this is actually also going to fall into like the common mistakes here, but before you move into signing up for a Zoom info or going out and building a list or buying a list, whatever you're thinking, you really want to start with not just defining, but prioritizing your targets. And so I often use this analogy. This is an important analogy. Your business plan or your business model is not your go-to-market plan. And I'm going to say that again. Your business model is not your go-to-market plan. And so let's just say you can work with companies with 20 to 200 employees anywhere in the United States. That does not mean you need a list of every company with 200 or 20 to 200 employees in the United States. You're not going to use it, right? It just doesn't fit. You don't go to market that way. That's your business model. You can work with all those companies, but you don't go to market that way. It's inefficient, doesn't make sense, right? A lot of folks might say, well, yeah, we can work with it. We've got this huge market, so let's go ahead and just sign up for this huge database. Well, you may not need all of that data, and it may not be the best place for you to start. That's not to say that wouldn't be a good investment, but the point is, before you jump in and start building a list, think about how you're actually going to use it. Like, what is the go-to-market motion that you're going to be using that list for? And we're going to go into that in some detail. And as part of that, you're going to be organizing and prioritizing those targets. So, you know, you might say, well, look, yeah, we can work with companies all over the United States with 20 to 200 employees. But if I were to think about where I'm going to be most effective and where I would want to start, it's probably going to be in the financial services industry. And it's really that 20 to 50 employee count. That's our sweet spot. And then, you know, gosh, if I wanted to use some context, I'd probably start in my own backyard and work out of like the Philadelphia area, maybe Delaware first, where I maybe have some relationships and a little bit of a brand I can build off of. Now I've got a much smaller kind of target that is something I can actually work with. And so we'll talk more about that. But once you've defined your targets, you can start to look at what are the sources for generating those lists. This could mean tapping into a database, using some of that human research, but you'll have different kind of costs associated, different speeds. Some are really quick, some take a little while, and some are going to be of different quality. So we'll go into that a bit. And as part of that, you can leverage LinkedIn, human research. We'll talk about scraping tools, how to combine different tools together to get the most bang for your buck. And then towards the end, we'll talk about some common mistakes and have time for questions and answers. But again, if you have a comment, you have a question, please jump on in here. Would love to hear from you. And then for those of you who are new, well, this is part of a 6 webinar series we are running. Today, we are on the 4th of 6, so talking about sourcing high quality prospect lists. Next week, we're going to get in more into lead scoring for sales and marketing follow through, and then we'll talk about lead handling. But welcome to the series, and let's continue here with sourcing high quality prospect lists. Michael, anything you want to add first before I continue on?
No, you're doing very well, Patrick. Good.
That's what I needed to hear. Appreciate that. All right. So first, you know, again, ask yourself, how will you be using this list? So I use that distinction of like your business plan versus your go-to-market strategy. Is this for you to call on? Is this for you to load into an email marketing tool? Is this for an SDR to load into a tool to do rapid dialing? You know, like they call them dialers. Or is this something that is going to go to your marketing team so they can invite folks to webinars and do large scale email marketing with? Well, what is the true use case? And as part of that use case, consider how quickly are you going to be able to use that data, right? So some companies, and I hear this all the time, they get really excited because they just got some huge list that they got from some conference or that they got from another company or whatever the case may be. If you're not going to use that now, I mean, first of all, the sources, third-party sources and other sources lists are questionable, but if you're not going to use that data now, it is decaying day after day. So even if, you know, you said, I want to get every CEO of these types of companies off of Zoom Info now, that is a big investment. It's a lot of time, But if you're not going to use it, then you've completely wasted time, money, energy, and so forth. So build your list around not just your target, but also how you're going to use that list. And so again, if it's just standard sales outreach, like you're probably not going to need that many, right? You're going to be manually calling and following through. If you're using automation, you're going to be able to get through some more contacts, and you're going to be able to kind of scale things out of it. And then if it's for one rep versus 5 reps versus 10, all of that will determine your use case, how many lists you need, and how you want to, on this next point, organize and prioritize your targets. And so as just to touch on this for a little bit, I often will use this analogy. So we talked about going national to pull a list, so like versus regional. And if you were to say, well, look, I want to talk to the CEO of every privately held software company in the health and wellness space that's raised $10 million or more in the last few years, and you really have this nicely defined target, and you go out there and there's thousands of contacts that fit that market. So you go ahead and pull all of them today. If you were to do that and then kind of work through them, well, what do you do next? Right. So now you either have to move on from that target because you already went through all those lists. And so in which case you're moving to a secondary or third target, which isn't really great for business if that's not your ideal client. Or you're going to be going back around and kind of hitting the same people with multiple attempts, multiple messages over and over again, and probably eventually annoying them. Right. So when you think about defining and prioritizing your targets, we often will recommend going kind of regional versus national. And this lets you be really organized. So you'll know, hey, I reached out to all the CEOs of these software companies, but I started in the Northeast. We worked that from July through August. And now I'm going to move my way down to the Mid-Atlantic. And now there's another 700, 800 contacts there I'm going to work. And then that'll take me just through September. Now I'm going to go in October. I'm going to do the Southeast. And by being really organized, you're making sure you're getting enough contacts at the right time. You're making sure that you're not annoying people and pulling this national. If you had pulled the national list, then you wouldn't be able to continue to pull lists. You'd just be sitting on old data. And so that prioritization is a key to based on how you're going to use it. And so don't be concerned about hitting all the industries at one time, all the titles, all the locations at one time. Be really clear there. This next piece is like, this is when it's sales outreach or marketing, it truly becomes a numbers game. It's not a numbers game as much. I mean, it is always a numbers game, but not as much when you're doing one-by-one prospecting, right? So in the old world of picking up the phone and networking in and finding a champion and a contact and kind of working, through relationships to find opportunities, it's a numbers game, but it's a different game. In this case, when you're pulling a list and you're going to run it through any sort of automation or any sort of systematic approach to sales, you want to really be careful about not just the numbers, but what are those numbers comprised of? So here on this last bullet, we say 200 contacts doesn't equal 200 prospects. Consider this, like, let's say that your target client could be a CEO, a COO, a VP of operations, a CFO, right? So it could be 4 potential people that could be your contact, right? At any given company. And then we have a lot of clients that's their case. It could be one of 4 contacts. Well, if there's 4 contacts per company that you're going to reach out to, and of those 200 contacts you're going to reach, well, that might only now be 50 companies or around 50 company prospects. And so if you were to say, well, look, actually our target client, if we look at our clients, 9 out of 10 times, it's the CEO. Like, sure, the COO can be helpful. Sure, the CFO has gotten us in for deals before, but really our customer is the CEO. So if you just pull a list of CEOs, you're actually going to get in front of 200 companies. And let's just say that the opportunity here is you're offering capital to startups, right? You're offering like financing solutions. If that's the case, not every company is going to need financing, right? So if there were 4 contacts per company, you're only reaching out now to 50 companies out of 200. Well, only 1 in 50 may even need funding, may need financing right now. So you're almost hurting your chances by reaching out to more contacts per company. So it's not going to be the same for every business, but if you can be really exclusive to your target decision maker when you pull a list, it'll actually help you reach more companies where you'll find the need or the opportunity. You'll have a much higher likelihood of finding that need or that opportunity. And let me know if that doesn't make sense, but essentially what I'm pushing you to do here is think about not just pulling a list of companies and all of your potential decision makers, but really focusing in on those core decision makers so that you're getting the right individuals and then the highest likelihood when you do your outreach, whether it's automated or manual, of finding that opportunity and not knocking on the wrong doors, essentially. When it comes to your source for quality data, there's a lot of options out there. So these are some of the big players out there. You got like players like ZoomInfo and Apollo are among the top sort of database tools. Sales Intel's up there. Hunter.io is one that's very on demand. Like you can, I think, just put in a credit card and buy contacts. LinkedIn itself is a source of data, although it doesn't always have your email addresses available, but it's a great place to go on and find data. And I'll do a quick demo here in a minute if we have some time on how to pull data from LinkedIn. And then Phantom Buster is a tool that actually lets you download searches from LinkedIn in a CSV file, and in fact can help you find some of the emails as well. And then this top one is just human research, which literally means hiring researchers from, typically it's like India contact. Upwork is a great source for that. If you're not familiar with Upwork, I highly recommend it. You can go on Upwork, hire folks that'll build lists for you at 20 cents a contact. But when it comes to your source for quality data, there are going to be a couple factors. So one, I always think of comprehensiveness as what I care most about. Okay, so by comprehensiveness, I mean, I don't want to just be limited to what is inside of ZoomInfo, right, or what's inside of Apollo. I want to know that I'm getting every possible CEO that fits my target customer. Right? I don't just want to hit 30% of the market that I can address or 30% of my ideal contacts. I want to find all of them. I want to find the best. So typically what you're going to want to do here is have a blend of data. And so what this next slide here is around databases plus human research. Okay, so no database is ever going to have 100% of the data out there. LinkedIn is about as close as it comes, right? LinkedIn's got people updating their profiles and they lose a job, change jobs, move around. People tend to kind of take care of their own data on LinkedIn. The rest of these sites, it's always a percentage of the market, and it's always going to be a percentage of accuracy, right? It's never 100%. I think LinkedIn's about as good as it gets in terms of quality data, but it's not a database, but where by itself you can generate lists, right? So Phantom Buster is a tool that lets you export LinkedIn search results, and I think LinkedIn hates this, by the way. It's like very hard to stop. The internet itself is not. Doesn't really endorse scraping, but Phantom Buster is a scraping tool. And what you can do on LinkedIn is you can target profiles based on keywords and responsibilities, right, that are not available on most databases as well. You can then export that search. If you have ZoomInfo, you could upload it and match data. You can also assign that export direct to a human research team. And I actually want to show you guys this because I think it's really cool. So I'm going to go on LinkedIn right now. I'm going to log into Phantom Buster, which we have an account we use, and I'll just do a quick search on LinkedIn that's like CEO, and I'll use a keyword like let's do CEO, and let me think of a really niche thing like scooters, right? Like, and I don't know what that is going to yield, but we've got now people who somewhere on their profile, 2,300 CEOs, they got something to do with scooters. Very niche group here. I'm going to make sure that I get these to be US based, and maybe I want to do a regional thing, but like 891 people, some motor scooter type thing. I could customize this with whatever I want. I could look for an interest. I could look for people who are, I could do a captain of lacrosse, like somebody who played lacrosse, and I think that's how you spell captain, AIN. Yep. So captain, like I could find these lacrosse captains, right? And now, let's say I played lacrosse and I was a lacrosse captain. Like, these are going to be my targets. Wow, great. Like, there's someone captain US Air Force. And anyway, I could just do lacrosse just to keep it easy. But you get the idea here. I'm getting data that's not available in any database. Now what I would do, oh, and it looks like I have to like upgrade my plan here. We've been using this quite a bit. I think I'll do it just to show off for you guys. Let's see. I'm surprised we don't have that on here. Maybe I'm on like a free version. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, let me see now. You go on to Phantom Buster, LinkedIn search export, use this Phantom. That's telling me to upgrade. Let me see. I guess I can go pro, switch to pro. It's processing, still processing the last one. That's the issue there. In any case, this will let you take this search result, drop it right into Phantom Buster, which we'll see if we can get access to. I don't think it's going to let us, but you drop in the search result, shoots out a CSV file really quickly. That CSV file can go right to human research, right? So now all these former lacrosse captains that I've identified in the US, or whatever keywords we want to be using, I can now assign that to my human researcher that I hired on Upwork. They're going to be real cheap, real affordable. And it may take them a week or so to get back to me with the full list. Now, this wasn't a huge list, so it might only take them a few days, but you're going to want to ask those researchers to validate your results. And there are email validation tools out there. There's dozens of them. So email validation tool, and you'll find plenty of them. They're very cheap. They're affordable. But your human researchers, if you hire them, they will actually have to have one of these on their own, because that's what they do. They should be experts at it. And so you'll be able to validate these emails that are researched as well. So Phantom Buster, fantastic tool. We're going to need to upgrade here because it looks like we're using it quite a bit, or maybe I got the wrong login. But Phantom Buster is a great tool. You can export from LinkedIn, get those results backfilled. And then this is a 30-minute webinar. I'm a little bit ahead of schedule here, but we'll save time for questions if we have them. And so when it comes to building lists, a couple common mistakes that you want to avoid. First is you want to really carefully define and prioritize your targets, right? So just because, and I even as a great example here, right? I could say, look, I work with CEOs, but of any company. You know, it could be any B2B company, CEO of anything B2B. Well, that's great. But if I played lacrosse in college and I was the captain of my lacrosse team, I'm actually going to prioritize reaching out to other lacrosse, captains first, because I'll have something unique to say to them, right? Or let's say I went, whatever the common data point is, right? So you think about that. Think about how you can really define and prioritize company size, titles, categories, that kind of thing. And then don't get more data than you can use. Data goes bad, right? Pulling a huge national list or signing up for a database of, 1 billion contacts and you're only needing a few thousand. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's also going to really slow down your go-to-market motion. So you want to be very specific about, it's not your business model that you're investing in. You're investing in your go-to-market motion. Spend more time on your plan up front before you pull a list. It's going to save you a lot of time headaches. It's also going to dramatically improve the results and what you get out of that list. I highly recommend starting and scaling by region, not nationally. So it just helps to be organized. You know where you've been, you know where you're going. I use that example of Northeast to Mid-Atlantic to Southeast. It's very rare that you're in a business that you're going to pull a huge national list, right? Even if you had 50 sales reps or 20 sales reps, you're not going to pull a national list and go, all right, guys, divide this up and go get them, right? You're going to give people territories. You're going to give them ways that they can be organized. So start and scale, use regions. Don't just go national with your lists. And be comprehensive, right? So databases are great. They'll help you move fast. You can pull a list very quickly. But if you leverage a tool like LinkedIn, use a Phantom Buster to export results, you'll actually be more comprehensive and get a more accurate kind of picture of the market than be limited to what's inside of Apollo.io or one of those database solutions. And then always validate your data first. So there's a lot of tools out there to validate data, but if you're going to hire a human researcher from Upwork, feel free to go ahead and ask them to validate that data for you. There's a lot of pros on Upwork. That's all they do. Just put a job out there. It's free. Look for a list builder, human researcher, and just tell them what you need and ask them to validate that data. So that is a quick run through on sourcing high quality lists based on your ideal customer profile. I hope you were able to take away a learning or two. And thank you everyone for joining. If you've got questions, we'll hang on here. Happy to answer them. Chat them in or raise your hand, whatever you like. But thanks for joining us. And yeah. Good to be here with you guys.
And we'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case people do want to chat in questions or raise their hands and participate in some way, shape, or form. We're happy to provide any strategy and planning and just help you out with whatever is maybe in front of you when you're doing this type of prospecting and outreach. If there is a book that is worthwhile reading, either for yourself or sharing across your network of peers, it's a book called Predictable Revenue. I know each call and each webinar series that we do, we try to bring one book or something that's unique to the conversation. And if you're looking for how to create this forecasted view or this predictable revenue model, or learn a little bit more about effective go-to-market strategy, a book called Predictable Revenue is one I would highly recommend. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and have a great holiday weekend. And we'll see you guys next Thursday for the next in our series. And take it easy. Have a good night.
Have a great holiday.
Cheers, guys.